Hey everyone, and welcome back to my Meeple series. Today I'm going to be adding these buttons to randomly generate circles and meeples on the screen while the simulation is running. So we're going to start off by adding functions to the game board and background classes to actually add the circles and the meeples. First off, let's go with the circles because those are pretty easy. I'm just going to pass in a position and a radius. If there isn't a radius passed in, I'm just going to select a number between 25 and 50. And I'm just going to copy the code that I wrote before to generate the circles. I'm also going to default the position to none. That way, in the actual function, we can set a default of just a random point on the background. Next, I'm going to parse out the position so that I can just pass that into the ellipse calculations, pass in the radius, and I'm just going to clean it up a little bit to make it easier to read. And there we go, we did it. Now I'm going to replace the code that I have at the initial function with our function to just randomly generate a circle, and we should be good. And it looks exactly the same, which is exactly what we expected. Now let's move on to the Meeple. I'm just going to do a simple function here too, position and color this time because we don't have a different size yet for these. And I'm also going to pass in none as a default for both of these so I can select a default in the function itself. For the color, I'm just going to pick a random color from an array. In this case, green, blue, yellow, and red, just to add some color variation. For the position, I'm just going to pick a random point on the board, which should be pretty easy because I already have that function. Alrighty, now I'm going to copy the code from above and replace it with the position and the color. And then I'm going to replace my generation code there with our function. And I'm going to just do it twice, I think. Okay, now let's see what happens. Well, there's no Meeple. Must have done something wrong. Okay. So if I look here, I forgot to actually add the Meeple to the Meeple array, or list in this case. Let's try that again. There we go, much better. Now we've got the random generation put into functions. We can start actually creating the buttons that you saw at the beginning of this video. So I'm just going to make another widget class just to contain all of it, and this way I can actually separate the game board in the layout with the buttons in the layout. And I'm going to start by initializing a game board, just initializing the class. And I'm going to resize the Meeple simulation widget with the size of the game board with a little bit of padding so that I can actually fit everything in there. Next, I'm going to import our different kinds of layouts and the buttons. Now we can go back down and actually use these. I'm going to start with the main layout of the widget, which will just be a horizontal layout so we can have them side by side rather than on top of each other. And I'm going to make a options widget, and I'm going to make an options layout. This way I can actually stack the buttons on top of each other. And I'm going to add a pause button, just label pause. And I'm going to add that to the options layout. Next, I'm going to set up the two buttons next to each other, one for the circles and one for the Meeple, with a horizontal box layout. Okay. Now we define the circle button. This way we can do stuff with it later, as for example, passing it into the layout. And let's define the Meeple button. Just call it Meeple because it's pretty simple. And add that to the additions layout. Next, we're going to create an additions widget. This way we can actually place the layout onto a widget that gets placed into our main layout later. And we're just going to set the layout to the additions layout. That will pass everything into it. And then we will add the additions widget. Let me just reorganize this a little bit, to the options layout. Now we can add the options to the main layout. And we do need to set the main layout to this widget's layout, and that doesn't seem to have worked. There's just the normal map. What did I do? Oh, I forgot to actually use the Meeple simulation and show it. Of course I did. And there's still nothing there. Let me look here. So first off, I forgot to take out the show from the game board. And what else did I forget? Well, first off, I forgot to add the game board to the main layout. And let's try adding the options back to the main layout and see what happens. Okay, at least the game board is there. What else is wrong? Oh, I forgot to actually add the option layout to the options. There we go. Much better. Now we've got the buttons and the game board. Cool. Now let's actually add the functionality to the buttons. So when the circle button is clicked, I'm just going to connect the circle, add a circle function to the circle button. And for the Meeple button, when that's clicked, I'm going to connect it to the add a Meeple function. And let me just look here. Just gonna reorganize a little bit so I know where I am. And okay, looks like everything is in order. Oh, nope, I've mixed up the functions. So let me just switch those again. And there we go. Let's see what happens. So when I press the circle, circles should just pop up. There they are. When I add meeples, there's a meeple. Looks good. Okay, next let's add functionality to that pause button there. So let's just make a pause function in the game board. And that's just going to be the exact same code as what we had for the if space is pressed. And we'll just add the function there. Then we'll scroll down to the pause button and we'll just connect that to the game board's pause function. Cool. Let's see if that works. Okay, paused, unpaused, paused, unpaused. Yes, definitely works. And as you can see, if I add a circle while it's paused, it won't draw it because the pause keeps the draw function from happening. Same thing for the meeples. Cool. Looks great. Okay, now we're just clearing up all of the random generation we currently have, just so that we have a blank slate to work with for our buttons. Okay, looks like we have everything. Just double checking, and there we go. There's our blank slate. And I can add a meeple, just going through the void, adding obstacles. Well, these circles, they all seem pretty uniform. Like they aren't actually being randomly generated. So, let's see what's going on there. So it looks like when I set the default for the radius to that random number, it's only ever going to be one default. So I'm going to do a similar thing with the random position for that radius. So let's try this again. Meeple, circle, Circle. Different radii. Yeah, looks good. Well, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please hit that like button. If you have any suggestions for my next videos, please leave a comment below. And as always, I hope you are safe and well. Thank you.